Japan and China have always been in conflict with one another in the Far East. From the Mongol-Chinese invasion in the 1200s to the Senkaku Island dispute today, the two regional powers have historically been anything but friends. Though China and Japan's enmity has really taken shape in the last 150 years, it has strong roots in the past millennium. As China and Japan began to culturally break apart in the 10th century, they found themselves poised against one another in two key areas: the Korean Peninsula and the Pacific Ocean around Taiwan and the Ryukyu Islands. The two frequently fought over these areas for their resources and strategic location. When Japan became isolationist under the Tokugawa shogunate, China and Japan's relations cooled down for a while and remained dormant until Japan was forced open again in 1948. After that, Japan underwent the Meiji Restoration and became modernized and westernized. This further distracted the Japanese from the Chinese and set the stage for the First Sino-Japanese War. Conflict over Korea in the 1890s sparked this war, which lasted for a year. The First War ended in a Japanese victory and thus establishing an era of Japanese regional hegemony and embarrassed China, then under the Qing dynasty. The First Sino-Japanese War officially established the regional rivalry between Japan and China that lasts to this day. It also created the basis for the next stage of Chinese and Japanese relations and the subsequent history of the Far East and paved the way for the Second Sino-Japanese War. The Second Sino-Japanese War was the primary Far Eastern conflict of the 20th century, and it has significantly influenced both Asian and world history. Its roots can obviously be traced back to the First Sino-Japanese War, as well as enmity arising from the larger standing issues mentioned before. The conflict also had a very recent catalyst to the conflict as the Japanese invasion of Manchuria. In 1931, Japan was taken over by a military government. They subsequently staged the Mukden Incident to provide a casus belli, or reason for war. The Japanese quickly overtook Manchuria and installed a puppet government there to ensure their influence. This led to a serious rise in tensions between China, then broken up into warlord states around this time, and Japan. The two clashed diplomatically and in border skirmishes for 6 more years, until Japan, attempting to expand their influence, inflicted a full-scale war against China. This was the beginning of the Second Sino-Japanese War. As the start of the war in 1937, Japan had the upper hand. They had better equipment, soldiers, leadership, and logistics. Until Japan brought the conflict into the global conflict of the Second World War, they were winning battle over battle. This supremacy, combined with the virulent militarism and nationalism of the Japanese nation, led to many brutal actions on the part of the Japanese against their opponents. One of the most infamous of these actions was the Nanking Massacre, also known as the Rape of Nanking. In 1937, capturing the strategic city of Nanking, Japanese troops massacred over 250,000 civilians and prisoners of war. Similar massacres occurred all across China as the Japanese, who claimed to be superior, slaughtered Chinese citizens and POWs across all fronts of the war up until Japan surrendered in 1945. These massacres damaged Sino-Japanese relations long after the war, and their after effects remain to this day. The issue's controversial nature remains an obstacle to a positive relationship between Japan and China. Furthermore, the Japanese government largely ignores the issue rather than formally accepting responsibility like modern Germany has done with the Nazis. Though China and Japan have other issues, such as the dispute over the Senkaku Islands or Japan's support of the Republic of China in Taiwan, this issue is a primary cause of the current rivalry between the two nations. It and the enmity between the past contribute to the less than favorable relations between Japan and China today. As a result, China and Japan constantly find themselves politically at odds with one another. Their volatile relations threaten to engulf the region in conflict, a conflict which would have the potential to involve the U.S. directly, and thus lead to a much larger war with greater consequences. A war between the U.S. and China, the world's largest economic powers, would bring ruin to the world economy and thus everyone's quality of living. Furthermore, an unprecedented escalation of such a conflict would even possibly lead to a nuclear war. Thus, to maintain world peace and prosperity, it is imperative that Japan and China learn to put their past aside and look to the future as friends. Otherwise, there may be no future for anyone at all.
So, and of course, that that the People's Republic of China have a closed-door policy. That means they close out the relationship with the U.S. and become isolated, starting in 1949.
A mostly uninhabited island group known as the Senkaku Islands in Japan and Diaoyu in China is at the center of a deal between the Japanese family who owns it and the Japanese central government. Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary, Osamu Fujimura, confirmed negotiations at a press conference, saying, "We are exchanging views with the landowners in various ways, but that process is ongoing." On Wednesday, Japanese media reported that the landowners and the government have agreed on a price of $26 million. The Chinese regime does not recognize the Japanese family's ownership of the islands and claims that the islands are a part of its territory.
China and Japan's issues are rooted in years of conflict and aggression. Today, it is a fight between the governments, not the individuals. Our community, as the political makeup of the United States, is affected today. Fishing rights in the Senkaku Islands and over Taiwan and who has legitimate claim to all of China affect us. These issues cause us to have problems between our two communities into the present.
I don't think it's not the people. I think many Japanese people are misled by the ruler. The history books, they are trained, and that China become to rethink its strategy with its neighboring states, and also Japan and China become a major trading partners. So and the issue become more, because China's first priority is sovereignty. Okay, first. After it has own economic power, then it talk about sovereignty is the most important thing. That's why China become concerned to take back Hong Kong and Macau. I mean, that's the first step to be a sovereign state. And of course, they also claim over Taiwan, because Taiwan is a part of China, as they claim. But of course, that become an issue cannot be resolved easily. So I think China's strategy is one China, two interpretations. That means let Taiwan interpret what China means, and let mainland China interpret what China means. One China, two interpretation. Can be KMT, can be People's Republic of China. So it depends on interpretation. So the issue is sovereignty is the priority of China's national policy. Now the Diaoyu Island become an issue last year, and then China becomes angry because it conflict with the sovereignty nation idea, and that the conflict become to emerge.
America has had much interest and influence in both Japan and China since World War II. After the fall of Imperial Japan and the rise of Communist China, America has been approaching the area cautiously. We protected our interests in the Korean War, but still have trouble between our communities today.
That there's no conflict between China and Japan, which is totally wrong. So I think it's the people who are misled by the ruler. I think many Japanese people feel sorry about what they did in the Second World War, that they invade China, but the government do not admit that. So I think I don't think that the people of three countries have hatred for each other. It just the government have not done a proper job in terms of the country rather than the people. I think, as I mentioned to you, the Japanese people and Chinese people do not have much conflict because they are the peace-loving people. They do not invoke war, but only the ruler who want to consolidate the power to invoke war.
Modern-day Japan and China, both up-and-coming economic powerhouses, shape us as a country. The disputes over small things like fishing rights or war shrines cause controversy today. Communist China refuses to accept the authority given to the United States by the United States to determine the fishing rights. Both of our governments have had our differences in the United Nations, with Japan supporting U.S. decisions. Japan and the U.S. both voted against China joining the United Nations.
The management rights is given to Japan by U.S. on that island, but China disagreed. China have openly decreed that treaty between U.S. and Japan is illegal without the consent of China. So even Japan have the management right given to the U.S. To rule over the island, but China do not accept that agreement. Taiwan and Japan are friendly to each other. Okay, because Japan invaded Taiwan, ruled China for many years, and so they have substantial influence on Taiwan in terms of the daily lives. So Taiwan people have tremendous respect for Japan. So now but Taiwan also claimed the Diaoyu Island is also part of China, part of KMT, because KMT is Republic of China, right? So so that is also the national sovereignty issue. And several weeks ago, and then there's the signing of fishing rights, and between Taiwan and Japan, and Taiwan still maintain that the Diaoyu Island is still part of China, nothing to do with the fishing rights issue. So I think, but Taiwan's do not want to invoke in dispute between Japan and China and Taiwan because of the fishing rights. So that's why Taiwan is willing to sign that agreement.
Looking to the future, it may seem bleak, but there is a way to reconcile the two nations and pave the way for peace. In order for the ideal outcome, both must apologize for the malicious actions against one another each has committed, as well as putting their current issues to rest. This can be achieved without bloodshed if both sides approach it willing to concede or even share the current disputed land. They can find common ground in their cultural and philosophies. We need to promote friendship and mutual coexistence.
I think that a better move for Japan is do not invoke that issue. Okay, and focus on economic ties between the two countries, because trading between Japan and China has been growing substantially. Okay, and internally Japanese people do not want war. Okay, so I think if they promote economic ties, friendship between the two countries, and then let history resolve the conflict over time, and let people who are smarter, who are more wise, and able to resolve the issue. I think that, and I think that the problem will be gradually go away. I think that will be a better solution, like Taiwan and China today. And if we do not invoke the issue of who interpret China, who rule China, who is the authority, who is the legitimate, who have the legitimate power to say who is the representation of China, then I think the issue can be resolved later.